Man, he's pathetic. I want 5 of them. So, YouTube just announced that they're doubling the requirements for monetization in order to fight the rise in AI content on the platform, which is just code for, we made a mistake by jumping onto the AI bandwagon as soon as we could, and that mistake has resulted in us having to pay way too many people because a ton of them are using AI to pump out dozens of videos a day. But because we don't want to listen to our community and admit that it was a mistake and hire real humans to fix the problem, we're just going to make it harder for smaller creators to get monetized. And we're going to use more AI to do it. Yeah, announcing this policy a year after implementing the whole AI age verification policy that was based on watch history of all things, which also hurt many creators, is just a terrible move. Can we get a new CEO who actually cares about human creators here, please? Like, I'm against bullying, but if that's what it takes, then so be it, honestly. Because of this dumb new policy, any chance I had at making any kind of money from this is down the turlet. Which means there's no point in trying to make content that my audience will like. There's no point in making monetization my main goal because it keeps becoming unattainable. If you keep making a goal harder and harder to reach, Tantalus is eventually going to stop trying to reach it. This might be a blessing in disguise though, as people don't seem to care much for my long-form videos, and the same seems to be going for my shorts lately too, which means I don't have to worry as hard about making content that will do well. I can just make the videos I want for the love of the game, even if they're not popular or take a little longer. Speaking of videos that I want to make, today's topic is Infinite the Jackal from the fan-favorite game Sonic Forces. For no particular reason, my Infinite the Jackal obsession came back today, and I'm gonna make sure you have it too. Oh, but where to start? There's so much to talk about. You know what? I'm gonna go make a list real quick, and then we'll get started. Alright, I'm back. Let's go! Infinite's story began on November 7th, 2017. On that fateful day, Sonic Forces was released to the masses, only to be later met with thunderous mockery. On that same day, the final installment of 4 promotional prequel comics for Forces also released. These comics are all available to read for free online. You can find them across various websites. I found them on this website, which apparently seems to be an archive of every Sonic comic ever published, which means I can fulfill my dream of laughing at Ken Bednar's writing and art skills directly. This isn't sponsored, by the way. It was just the first website I found that wasn't a fan of Wiki. Seriously, I hate that website so much. The promo comics are as follows: Moment of Truth, Stress Test, Looming Shadows, and Rise of Infinite. We're not focusing on those first 3, so into the proverbial junk drawer they go. Oh, no. We will be focusing on Rise of Infinite, where our favorite Linkin Park Jackal starts his story. The comic opens with Eggman lamenting that he's having a hard time coming up with new robot designs. Been there, done that, was denied the t-shirt. His lamenting doesn't last too long, as Orbot tells him about the strange energy readings that have just shown up outside. Eggman goes to investigate and finds a mysterious stone half buried in the ground. Eggman decides it's a good idea to touch the mysterious stone that was just said to be giving off a strange energy signature, and surprise, surprise, he hallucinates. This is why you don't touch the magic glowing rock before taking the necessary safety precautions. The stone shows the Good Doctor an illusion of his greatest dream, Eggman Land, a theme park dedicated entirely to him. He drops the stone in shock, and the illusion fades. Eggman is now very intrigued by this mysterious stone. We then see Eggman running various tests on the stone, which is giving results that are off the chart. Unfortunately, the Doctor does not have a bigger chart. Cubot suggests some names for the stone, including Anarchy Barrel, to which Orbot says that name is too derivative, which I find absolutely hilarious. Eggman then comes up with the final name for the stone, calling it the Phantom Ruby. Oh my goodness, it's the thing from the thing! Oh, isn't that cool? Eggman's moment of reveling in the perfect name is cut abruptly short by an attack on whichever base he's in at the moment. Seriously, the amount of bases he has is just comical. And who should attack but the Jackal Squad, led by their fearless leader, Infinite. Or at least the guy who eventually becomes Infinite. During the early development of Sonic Forces, his beta name was Zero, and it's revealed that he cast aside his old identity in episode Shadow. Fans connected the dots, and many have adopted the headcanon of Zero being Infinite's real name, myself included. Moving on, Eggman panics as he did not think to build up his army rather than study the Ruby nonstop, but his worries are quickly cast to the wayside as the Ruby generates a whole army for him. The leader of the squad makes his way to Eggman and his sword comes down on the Ruby and it shows him an illusion of a world in ruin. Eggman uses this opportunity to knock the leading Jackal off, but then Eggman offers the Jackal a deal. Eggman says that he finds the Jackal interesting and wants him to lead his forces. The rest of the squad pleads with their leader to not take the Doctor's deal, but he doesn't listen. The leader relays how he's grown tired of the world as is and wants to help the Doctor change it, and judging by what the Ruby showed him, to maybe see it burn as well. My, going from wanting to fetch a hefty bounty to wanting to watch the world in ruin is quite a drastic motivation change. I wonder if that's ever expanded upon. Moving into episode Shadow, we get Shadow's first encounter with Infinite. There are only 3 levels in this DLC, and the second stage is first chronologically, so we're gonna go chronologically. Shadow first encounters the Jackal mercenary in front of Eggman's base in Casino Forest. The Jackal is very angry at Shadow because he destroyed his squad. The use of the word destroyed and not defeated, along with Infinite's attacking Shadow in anger, suggests that Shadow killed the rest of the Jackal squad. I would not be surprised if he did. Shadow is more than willing to take a life if he deems it necessary. The mercenary lunges at Shadow, hoping to take revenge for his squad. Unfortunately, no one bothers to tell the Jackal that he's dealing with the ultimate life form, meaning that he gets dumpstered into a bush. Shadow then taunts his short-lived foe, calling him weak and pathetic. We then get the infamous line,
I am not weak!
The Jackal then tosses aside his old identity and takes on the name Infinite, as mentioned previously. He fuses the Phantom Ruby to his chest and begins his conquest of the world. Sometime later, Shadow is going to investigate Omega's disappearance when he is once again face-to-face with the Jackal mercenary, only things are a little different. Infinite regales his previous encounter with Shadow, which the ultimate lifeform does not remember. Infinite becomes enraged by this as he did not know that Shadow has the memory of an alcoholic goldfish. He then traps Shadow in an illusion of Green Hill. Shadow breaks free from the illusion and the surrounding area begins to collapse. Infinite gloats about his strength, saying that not even Sonic could stop him now. Rouge's voice comes over the radio, telling the Ultimate Lifeform to get over there, as we progress into the main story of Sonic Forces. Now, I'm sure if you clicked on this video, then you already have some knowledge of the plot of Forces. Eggman takes over the world, Sonic and gang work to free it and defeat him, and Infinite is also there. Look, I'm not gonna lie, Infinite didn't really have much of a story in this game. Many aspects of this game suffered during production, Infinite being one of them. 06 was also a bad game, but at least Mephiles had a story and a real reason to hate Shadow other than being called weak. Shadow calls everyone weak at some point or another, you ain't special, Finny. Regardless, I do still love the role he plays in-game. Infinite shows up out of nowhere, clocks Sonic in the head, keeps him locked up on the Death Egg for 6 months, plagues the world with duplicates of villains, terrorizes civilians, no-diff Silver, covers a whole city in illusions, summons a sun to deliver the final blow, and then just dips when he's finally defeated. Infinite might not have gotten a real story, but he was so much fun to watch. Infinite's role in Forces was that of an unapologetically evil edgelord, and I love him for it. His dialogue is so over-the-top cheesy, it loops right back around and becomes threatening again. A simple, I can taste your fear and it's delicious can go a long way, and this edgy little Jackal makes it go the distance. After I finished playing Sonic Forces for the first time, I waited patiently for him to return, knowing in my gut that the wait would be worth it. When I saw that trailer for Generations revealing Mephiles was returning, I hoped so badly that Infinite would also be making his return. After I played that and saw none of him, I started to wonder if all my waiting was for nothing, if my gut was wrong. But that doubt didn't last too long, as I decided to listen to the Chaotix case files. Ooh, was that decision ever worth it? Vector gets kidnapped by Eggman and tossed in a cell with Sonic. In an attempt to stall the good doctor and allow his and Sonic's friends time to break them out, Vector decides to recount to Eggman and Sonic the events that led to him getting captured. Eggman starts to get into the story as well, which was a fun little character moment. Vector, Espio, and Charmy are tasked with investigating the disappearance of one of the very powerful astroscopic lenses. As the Chaotix work to figure out who could be behind the thefts, they come across several characters from games and comics past. Tangle and Whisper even get official voice actors. Ayo Sega, hit me up. If you ever decide that Surge gets an official voice, I want to be that voice. Please, 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 please! Clues pop up suggesting Rouge the Bat, the Babylon Rogues, and even Dr. Eggman himself, all of which come up dry, until certain clues come to light. The astroscopic lenses are capable of creating illusions. Who do we know that likes to use illusions? The term red specter is mentioned a few times. What's another word for specter? What is a jewel that is red? Eggman reveals that his former lieutenant's body was never recovered. It's Schrodinger's corpse. If a body is never found, then the person in question is both dead and alive. And then, to my absolute delight, Infinite makes his long-awaited return, and he is voiced by none other than Liam Alejandro Saab. Well, I guess that makes 2 nickels. An epic fight breaks out between Infinite and the heroes, plus Eggman. The heroes manage to destroy the astroscopic lenses, leaving Infinite powerless once again. The heroes are finally going to defeat the Jackal once and for all. And then he sets off a bomb and escapes into the ether. It is here in this audio drama where we find out the reason for Infinite's sudden change in motivation, why he went from a simple mercenary looking for a bounty to wanting to watch the world burn. And that reason is... he's a nihilist, possibly also a little egotistical, maybe even a touch of ASPD. He views the world as something that doesn't deserve to go on living as is, so he's gonna burn it down and reshape it as he sees fit. A bit of a cliche, but still very much enjoyable. Infinite's story may be lacking in a few places, but I love it nonetheless. I really hope we get to see him again in the future, and that it will be a much shorter wait than 9 years. Although for me it was more like 6 years. I didn't play Forces until 2020. But what is an edgelord without an over-the-top, edgy design? I mean, just look at this guy! I can't possibly decide what to talk about first. That's like asking me to choose a favorite OC. I couldn't possibly! It's Agumura, by the way. Oh, but I must. I suppose we can start with the silhouette. Now, if you've dipped your toe into the world of character design, you might have heard that a good silhouette can make any character recognizable from a distance. A good silhouette can make just about anything recognizable from a distance. But a good silhouette also introduces you to the character. Look at some of the art of Zero from Rise of Infinite. Now just his silhouette. What does it tell you about his character? That he's action-oriented, that he leaps into things with little forethought, that he's a very take-charge kind of person? Now look at Infinite's official render. What does this silhouette tell you about his character? That he's more reserved, that he's more strategic, that he's more menacing? A good silhouette has 2 jobs: make a character recognizable from a distance, and introduce you to that character. Infinite's silhouette does both spectacularly, in my humble opinion. If a silhouette gives you a first impression, then the color palette gives you the immediate second. I love playing around with color when it comes to designing characters. The same color can mean completely different things based on a character's personality and the color surrounding it. Red can mean anger, or it can mean love. Green can mean jealousy, or a connection to nature. Put them together, and you get Christmas. Infinite's color palette is one that is very basic when it comes to edgy characters. Primary of black, secondary of gray, although it's more of a silver in his case, a tertiary of red, and an accent of yellow. Several Sonic characters share this color palette. They just move the colors around a little. The way the colors are arranged on Infinite do a good job of drawing your eye to 2 main areas, those being his chest and his left eye. His main color is black. It takes up the most of his design, making the white markings on his body and that shock of white hairs really stand out. The glowing red of the Phantom Ruby on his chest draws in your attention, and it's a good signifier to where his power comes from. His eyes, having red sclera as opposed to their previous white, shows what effect the Phantom Ruby's power has on him. The red sclera also helps his yellow iris to stand out, drawing your eye to his. Isn't that clever? The silver accents on his gloves and shoes, along with his silver mask, add a certain regal flair, giving the impression that this is someone who cares about appearances. Fitting for a character that works with illusions. Speaking of masks, gloves, and shoes, Infinite's main articles of clothing also help his design a good bit. His gloves do the least for his design. Not saying that they're badly designed, it's just that they're not as interesting as the shoes or the mask. This tends to be the case with Sonic characters. The gloves usually aren't as interesting as everything else. There are even a few Sonic characters that give up the gloves altogether. My mind jumps to Styx the Badger, and it's not just because I'm rewatching Sonic Boom for the umpteenth time. Infinite's shoes do more for his design than the gloves, because just look at them. Look at these kickers. Oh my goodness, these are immaculate. The sheer, unadulterated drip emanating from these shoes is criminal. Sonic shoes never fail to disappoint me, and I have yet to come across a Sonic character with shoes that I do not like. Finally, the mask. Oh man, the mask. I love mask characters. There's always an air of mystery around them, and Infinite is no exception. Characters that hide their face always make me wonder why. In Infinite's case, it's because he's ashamed of his old identity, and his face reminds him of that. The decision to only expose one eye is one I find very intriguing in terms of implication. It makes me think that it's meant to symbolize that Infinite is half blind to certain things, or only allows half his true self to be seen at a time. Eyes are the window to the soul, after all. This mask is just iconic in every way, and it is burned into my brain. Now, if only it were easier to draw, then it would be perfect. Infinite has two main sources of power, being the Phantom Ruby and the astroscopic lenses. I've already touched on both of them briefly, but I do find it interesting how despite doing roughly the same thing, they work in very different methods. According to Rise of Infinite, the Phantom Ruby seems to conjure illusions on its own based on the will of its wielder. When Eggman picked it up, it conjured a giant illusion of Eggman Land. When Infinite's sword clashed with it, it created a giant illusion of a smoking city. Now, this would imply that the Phantom Ruby has existed long before the events of Sonic Forces, simply being another powerful gemstone of mysterious origins. However, Forces seems to contradict this a little. Look, I know what you're thinking. Forces is a mess. Good concepts with mediocre at best execution. I'm not going to pretend that this game is secretly a masterpiece that just needs some cleaning up. I saved that delusion for Sonic 06. According to Sonic Forces, the Phantom Ruby Infinite wields is the finished version of a couple prototypes that came before. That would imply that it is an artificial creation made by Eggman. Now, both Rise of Infinite and Sonic Forces released on the same day, as I mentioned early in the video, which means there is a good chance that at least a few people who watched the comics and played the game at around the same time noticed this seeming contradiction. But, I do have a theory that might explain this contradiction. Remember this panel that shows Eggman running tests on the Phantom Ruby? I choose to believe that the one Infinite wields is artificially made from the one Eggman found, just given a little bit of extra oomph. When the term prototype Phantom Ruby is used in Forces, it's talking about the one that appears in Rise of Infinite, the original. Now, the word prototype typically refers to an early working model of an invention or a concept. But if we get into the word's etymology, we will find that entomology is the study of insects and that we should have gone into the word's etymology. But if we do that, we will find that it comes from the Greek words protos, meaning first, and typos, meaning mold or pattern. All that to say, prototype Phantom Ruby is the correct term. It's still a prototype, it's the first of its mold, it's just not a man-made one. Where was I going with this before I started talking about Greek? Yes, how the ruby works. Like I said, the ruby conjures illusions based on the will of the wielder. It also seems like one ruby can cancel out the illusions of another, which is pretty cool. It also seems like some form of physical contact needs to be made with the ruby in order to conjure anything, be it direct or indirect. This is why Eggman could conjure illusions in the final battle of Forces, despite him not actually touching it. It was powering the robot that he was controlling, so that still counts. The astroscopic lenses, while also capable of projecting illusions, seem to work in a very different way. These lenses are said to date back to the time of the Gaians, although I haven't the foggiest idea who those guys could possibly be. If anyone knows if they've been mentioned in any Sonic media prior to the Chaotix case files, I would love to know. Speaking of the case files, since this is an audio drama, we never actually see how the astroscopic lenses work. It's sort of described via dialogue between the characters, but the visual side of it is left entirely up to the imagination of the audience. I am sorry to those of you who listen to this audio drama and have a terrible time envisioning things in your head. I, however, do not have that problem, so I will be listening to the case files again once I am done making this video. The lenses are described as being shaped like Fresnel lenses. These are commonly used in lighthouses, traffic lights, and magnifying glasses. The way the astroscopic lenses work is by refracting energy to grant illusion-making capabilities. When the whole set is together, they give a significant boost in power as well. What energy do they refract exactly? I'm going to guess any form of energy is suitable. Infinite was able to harness these lenses by mounting them onto a floating sky platform, not sure how nobody noticed that, and using that setup to beam the refracted energy directly onto him. This is why destroying the lenses left Infinite powerless, but destroying the generator that supplied the power to Infinite's ruby didn't. The ruby acted like a reservoir, still having some power to spare. An edgelord's personality is something that must be executed with care. You must be careful not to go too far with the overall edge, but you must also be careful to not go far enough. You need to add just the right amount of softness in order to make your edgelord more realistic, but that softness must be believable for your particular edgelord to have. Otherwise, it makes no sense for it to even be there in the first place. All of this varies from edgelord to edgelord. Your edgelord's personality is what will ultimately determine whether the people want more of him or not. Your edgelord can have the coolest design, the coolest powers, the coolest theme, but if that edgelord is annoying, don't even bother anymore. So, you have to wonder, what is it about Infinite's personality that makes people want more of him? And the answer is, he is just over-the-top edgy. Sonic Team went all in, making this guy one of the most unserious edgelords I have ever seen. Dude's personality is the equivalent of a middle schooler's edgy OC in the early 2000s, and I love him because of that. Perchance, that is why so many people love him, because he is unapologetically edgy. He doesn't have a secret soft side, he's a total nihilist. He is completely edgy just for the sake of it. And I mean, what more do you want me to say? This guy's just edgy, and it is just awesome. He is trying way too hard to emulate the early 2000s era of Sonic villains, and he is doing a fantastic job. That is why so many people were so excited to get him back in the Chaotix case files. He is edgy just for the sake of it, and it is so much fun to watch. Alright, we all know the joke. Infinite's theme is the edgiest song ever made, and is still the first result you get when you search edgiest song ever on YouTube after just short of a decade. It better still be there next November. But I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't in earnest. It feels like Danger Kids really put effort into this song. It feels like they were able to walk around in Infinite's mind and see how he sees himself. Is he the toughest of terrors in the darkest of days? No, not really. But does he see himself like that? Yes, absolutely. The only real instance we see of this in his debut game is when he takes a rain check on Silver's existence. I know a lot of people saw this moment as Sega nerfing Silver yet again, but Infinite was advertised as one of the most powerful foes Sonic and Gang have ever faced. I see this less as Silver being nerfed and more Infinite actually living up to his theme song. And that's what I like about Infinite's theme. It's loud, it's showy, it's heavy, and it's the exact kind of song you'd expect to accompany someone who thinks they're a big deal, but can be beaten with a weaker version of his own magic rock. His boss battle music is also top tier. While those tracks don't invoke the same feeling of, this guy is pretty cool, even if he's not as big of a deal as he thinks, they still make me feel like I'm fighting someone formidable, even though the actual boss fights weren't that. These tracks are still pretty cool though. Infinite's first boss on the giant snake is kinda just an instrumental of his vocal theme, but it leads more into a dubstep vibe, which I am always grateful for. Seriously, I have a weakness for dubstep remixes and dubstep in general. Infinite's second boss with the custom hero is exactly the same, more or less. It's still good, although I would have liked if there was a little more variation between the first two battles. I don't know what kind of variation I want, but variation would be appreciated. Music speaking. There was variation in the gameplay between these two battles. Infinite's final battle, though, now that is what I'm talking about. It's big, it's orchestral, it gives me the feeling that this is the final stand against an enemy who has managed to take almost everything from you. This track feels triumphant. I love this boss fight, even if it was just another, hold on, what was that term again? Yes, straight line simulator. We can all agree that this guy was wasted in Forces. He had so much cool factor, it was criminal what he was relegated down to. Infinite had the potential to be someone who could seriously hurt Sonic. If not physically, then certainly mentally. The nature of his illusions are perfect for not only serious physical damage to Sonic, but serious mental damage as well. Saying that Sonic was tortured for 6 months only to show him just cuffed in a cell with no visible damage whatsoever feels insulting, especially when in the very next mainline game, Sonic is actively being physically corrupted by cyber energy. If Sega had gone through with the original concept, then he'd also be going through a little retrograde amnesia. I mean, honestly, it almost feels like Sega was scared to show Sonic getting seriously hurt. I wonder what made them so scared of the— oh, right. That. Yeah, no, I can see why. Luckily, he was brought back for the Chaotix case files. They set up his return so well. I felt so smart putting together all the clues and thinking, are they bringing Infinite back? But he's dead, isn't he? There's no way. But then, Eggman revealed that a body was never recovered. Like I said earlier, Schrodinger's corpse. Everything was lining up to reveal Infinite's long-awaited return, and when Sage said he was right at Eggman's front door, catharsis. Pure, blistering catharsis. His return was handled so well. No wonder Sonic Team spent a couple years on this. They wanted to get it right, and they got it so right. And not only that, but they even set up the possibility for him to return again. I don't know if it'll be in a future game, the IDW comics, or what. Maybe they'll make an animation just for him. Sega seems to be popping off with Sonic animations lately. Maybe they'll make a new animated show and he'll play a pivotal part in it. The possibilities are nigh endless. I am so excited to see what Sega does with Infinite next, and I am sure it will once again be worth the wait. Hold on a minute. If Sega was working on the Chaotix case files for at least a couple years, and Shadow Generations came out almost 2 years ago— oh my goodness, is that why Infinite wasn't in Shadow Generations? Well, I think that's about everything I wanted to talk about. I don't know if I'm missing anything, though. Overclocked. Sweet potato fries! Wait, Overclocked? Yeah. The official DLC for Sonic Forces came out about a year after the base game. Any of this ringing a bell? Overclocked is a fan project. It's not official DLC. And it came out 6 years after Sonic Forces. Huh. Maybe in this world, but in mine, Sonic Forces is one of the best Sonic games of all time, and Overclocked is a phenomenal DLC. I've even got a Switch cartridge that came with both Episode Shadow and Overclocked. Would it, work on my Switch? I think so. Why? Can I borrow it, please? Thank you so much for sticking around towards the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Please like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like it, plus whatever shorts I make. Go ahead and tell me what your thoughts are on Infinite the Jackal. Do you love him as much as I do, or do you disagree and think he's a total nothing burger of a character? Let me know down below. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go replay Forces and listen to the Chaotix case files again. Chaos out.